about to join Don Neuen, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, and Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience, for a weekly situation report, or SITREP. 18 hours a day, Denise Simon lives her life as an Intel Analyst. 18 hours a day, Don Neuen lives his life in the world of rock and roll. 1 hour each day, Neuen receives a daily SITREP from Simon. Welcome to the Drive Time Situation Report. Fasten your seatbelt. You're now in Don Neuen's car, and he is calling in for his SITREP.
Hello?
What's up, Niecy?
Hello, Mr. Don.
How are you?
I'm okay, you?
I'm doing rather large. So, I got some pretty exciting stuff to tell you.
Uh-oh.
Right, before we get into this SITREP, and I guess I should, right at the top here, welcome everyone to tonight's Drive Time Situation Report with Denise Simon, and on the other end of this confab is your buddy Don Neuen. Both of us have our own radio shows on the same station or network that you're listening to right this minute. But tonight, for the next hour, it's the Drive Time SITREP. So, Denise, couple of big things I got to talk about here before we get into the actual SITREP. Number one, and the most important thing, is not what I'm about to talk about with regard to iHeartRadio. It's not got anything to do with Donald J. Trump. It does not have anything to do with the Mueller investigation. It doesn't have anything at all to do with Bush 41. You know what it has to do with?
All right, I bite. What's that?
Today is Donna Fiducia's birthday. Well, actually, tomorrow is Donna Fiducia's birthday. But given the fact that our beloved listeners are listening to this show on Wednesday, December 5th, which is when it airs for the first time. Today, ladies and gentlemen, while you're listening to this show, if today is the 5th of December, that's Donna Fiducia's birthday. So I want to wish the love of my life, Donna Fiducia, a happy birthday right here on the Drive Time SITREP.
Happy birthday indeed.
And just like you, Denise Simon, when Donna has a birthday, she's like a fine wine. The two of you get better with age.
Oh, I'm sure she's aging a whole lot better than I am.
Well, I don't know about that. I've seen the two of you together. You're both pretty darn fine. All right. So that's the first bit of business. Donna Fiducia, dear Donna
Happy
Fiducia,
birthday.
Happy birthday to you. All right. Second bit of business, Denise, and you and I touched briefly on this via text messages last night. But I am stoked and super excited to tell all of the listeners that the Drive Time SITREP is now available on iHeartRadio, effective immediately. They could be listening to us right this minute on iHeartRadio. And the way you do that, ladies, that's big time cool. The way you do that is you go on to you download the iHeartRadio app, you do a search for the station Mojo 50. That's M as in Michael, O Oscar, J Jupiter, O Oscar, the number 5, the number 0. Mojo 50. That is a network that all of our shows are on. Cowboy Logic Radio, the Denise Simon Experience, Drive Time SITREP. You can find us all on Mojo 50. Now, I could be wrong on this because I am not iHeartRadio savvy yet. But I believe that once this show airs, you're going to be able to search in iHeartRadio for this show. Pretty cool, huh?
Indeed cool.
But most definitely, you're able to listen to the Denise Simon Experience, Cowboy Logic Radio, and the Drive Time SITREP, along with a bunch of other shows like the Conservative Cartel, the Doc Thompson Show, you can listen to all of them on iHeartRadio by going to the Mojo 50 channel, which is huge. Hat tip to Ron Phillips, Doc Thompson, Matt Locke, all of the people over there at Mojo 50. We sure do appreciate the fact that they have welcomed us into their family of Mojo. Now,
yes.
that's huge, Denise. iHeartRadio is huge. So the listenership is increasing as we speak. Hey, happy belated Thanksgiving Day to you.
Thank you. You too. You were traveling.
Yeah, we were. We were up there in Wisconsin, eh? You know,
Hey?
You know, like with cheese and dairy products and cold weather, eh?
Mm-hmm.
But we had a good time. Got to see my dad. He's doing pretty good. But you know what? All of our beloved listeners have not tuned in to tonight's Drive Time SITREP to hear me talk about my trip to Wisconsin over Thanksgiving. But given the fact that they didn't tune in for me to say that is a bonus because they received it. Right, Denise? Yes. All righty there. Hey, before we get into anything at all of substance, what the hell is wrong with your Pittsburgh Steelers fans, Denise?
Listen.
That's a disgrace.
Yeah. I was talking to my younger son yesterday, and I even mentioned football. And, you know, this kid bleeds, football. And he's even more upset that he's in 3 fantasy leagues. And he was winning everything until this weekend. I mean, I've never seen anything like it.
Well, I'm not talking about whether they win or lose. I'm talking about the behavior of the fans.
Oh.
See the video of the fight breakout?
No, didn't.
Oh, it was awful. It was awful. It started with a damn headbutt. Who headbutts somebody
with a helmet
when you go to a football game when they're wearing the same jersey as a fan that you are?
Well, you can't really tell what necessarily went on. You know, they may be drinking Iron City beer and things went sideways.
I do recall that in the article that I read along with the video that I watched that alcohol was a contributing factor to making these two gentlemen, or at least one of them, appear that he was 10 feet tall and bulletproof.
Okay.
All right, well, let's timestamp the show. We got about 17 minutes until we got to go to break. Let's timestamp it and educate all of us, Denise.
Well, it is 8:14 p.m. Eastern something time on the 4th of December in the year of our Lord 2018.
Very good. Do me a favor. I'm not sure if the overmodulation is on my end in my earbuds or if it's you. Just back away from your mic about an inch and see if that helps.
All right.
That was a little better. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are tuning in for the first time, again, my name is Don Neuen. On the other end of this fab-boo conversation is one Denise Simon. I am in my car driving home after a long day at work, and Denise is in her bunker down in Central Florida. And I have called into Denise to get a SITREP, or a situation report, in which she is going to brief me and you on everything that is important, or at least that she feels is important. And we invest all of our confidence in her, and we do so with full confidence. She's going to brief us on what happened today while the rest of us were working and not capable of following the news, watching any of the news networks, watching videos, whatever she does all day long, which is a massive amount of intelligence research. She's going to brief us. She's basically going to create the perfect filet mignon. All the fat is being trimmed away, and we have a perfectly wonderful hunk of red meat. How you like that, Denise?
Jeez. Okay, well,
I mean, look. When you're on with Matt Bruce, or if you're on with Scott James, do they ever give you that kind of an intro? Ever?
Oh, no.
Of course not. They pale in comparison. And I hope both you guys are hearing me say this. Your intros of the stellar Denise Simon pale in comparison to what I give her. Back to you, Denise.
Harmony.
I love those guys.
Harmony, kinship, refine, grace, je ne sais quoi.
Okay, you talking about me?
What are all those words? Those are some words that we haven't heard in a lot of, really at all in a lot of years, correct?
You're going to talk about George Bush 41, right?
I'm really going to talk about the entire family because an interesting thing happened. The entire family went to the rotunda tonight, and the entire family was a mobile receiving line, if you will. The entire family walked around and virtually talked and shook hands with as many people as they possibly could, thanking them for paying respects and tribute to 41. I thought it was a remarkable moment. Absolutely a remarkable moment. Sully, the dog, paid the last visit. But another remarkable thing is 94 years old Bob Dole. In a wheelchair, can't stand, was wheeled in, and his aide helped him stand up with a lot of effort to do so, helped him stand up in front of the casket, and he saluted. I mean, it was just very moving. The whole thing was. But I'm going to give you another word that I bet you've never heard before. And the word is catafalque. Have you ever heard that?
Nope.
Catafalque. Catafalque. A catafalque is a wooden platform upon which has a black draped cloth or a cloth draped over it, and the casket sits on top of it. That's called a catafalque.
Okay, I did read that. This is the same one. This is the same catafalque that was used by Lincoln, is it not?
Yes, and it's just wooden. Now, the interesting thing about this, who had the presence to keep that catafalque, archive it, and have it become known to somebody who helped 41 plan out with much duress, because he really didn't want to do it, but he was told that he was obligated to because he was a president, his entire funeral plan, that somebody knew that that catafalque existed. And then you got to ask yourself, what else does our federal government have in antiquities and treasures that we should probably know about that we otherwise wouldn't?
I am not for certain when I say this, but I think that has been used by other people that are lying in state.
You would have to ask that question, but it never really came up as a piece of historical trivia until that I've heard of until this week.
Do we know for certain that McCain was not on that?
I don't know for certain, but I didn't hear a single person say it.
For some reason, and I could be totally wrong, and quite frankly, I hope I am. But for some reason, I remember hearing this before. And the only person that I would recall it recently on would be McCain. I don't know if you can dig around on that for the during the break. But, I agree with you that the words that you used prior to going into this segment regardless of how we feel about Bush 41 or Bush 43 or the entire family politically, Donna and I talked about this on the Cowboy Logic show this week. There were some things that we obviously always disagree with regarding any president. And for you to agree with everything they do, you're nothing but a pawn. But the one thing about the Bush family is that for the most part, they do handle themselves with grace and a genteel composure. And one of the things that Donna and I talked about with regard to 41, wouldn't it be nice if we all were able to model our marriages after George and Barbara?
And Ronnie and Nancy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go back to the catafalque for a second. It was hastily constructed in 1865 to support the casket of Abraham Lincoln, so that his body could lay in state in the Capitol Rotunda. The catafalque was used for 6 hours for Senator Byrd. It was used for Chief Justice Earl Warren, Thurgood Marshall, former Justice William Brennan, Rehnquist, Scalia, Secretary of Commerce Ron Brown. I'm looking to see who else.
It may have been Scalia then that I heard about that. I mean, it was recent, within the past 5 years.
Reagan, Hoover. Fascinating. I don't see. Oh, it was used for McCain. McCain. Gerald Ford. The unknown soldier from the Vietnam era, who was later identified as Michael Blassie. The unknown soldier from World War I, Pershing, Taft, Douglas MacArthur. So it has been used many times, but had no idea. Yeah, but I had absolutely no idea that, that's just not something that, comes out in some kind of, historical piece of trivia.
Right, right. Hey, let me ask you this, Denise. How would you compare, and I'm going to refer to this as an event, because quite frankly it is, this event of Bush 41 compared to the McCain event that took place? How would you compare them?
I don't know that I would compare them. They each get to do their own thing, and they did. I think that there was a different kind of warmth, a different kind of genuineness, a different kind of human connection so far as I've seen it with 41 than I saw with McCain.
Well, I also don't think that 41 for one moment has made or will make this event political, and John McCain did.
Yeah, but everybody else is trying to make it political.
Yeah, but I don't see it with 41.
No, I don't either.
And that's all McCain's was a political statement as far as I was concerned. But that's my opinion. All right, anything else on 41's event?
No, but I just would say that it was really quite moving. For the last 2 days, I found it to be simple. I found it to be, harmonic. It's just that, people drove from, Utah. People that were on vacation that were leaving said, we're staying to do this, to stay and pay their respects. It was really quite fascinating. And I did not realize, because of he was very humble and didn't really speak ever of his military service, that his being shot down and having a parachute and then being picked up by a submarine, that whole thing, and because of the kind of plane it was almost like a kamikaze type missions on those kinds of planes, because they had to fly at such low levels. But nonetheless, his military record, his service, and what he did has become a benchmark at many of the military schools, and the Air Force Academy, the Marines, the Naval Academy, and so forth. I mean, they really do speak to it. It's kind of a introduction paragraph. And that was a little piece of tidbit that I don't think any of us really knew either.
Well, I tell you, I don't know about you, but I really long for and miss the demeanor of our country from the 4 years when he was in office, don't you? What
did he say? A kinder, more kinder and gentler nation. And when you hear those words again, the immediate thing I thought of was shame on those Democrats for what they did to Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
I just wonder what if he ever spoke to what they did to Brett Kavanaugh and how that whole thing came down.
Well, I'm sure if he did, I believe he would have used the word disgrace.
At least, yes.
Yep.
As another little tidbit, just to kind of put things in perspective, when he was president, our national debt was $2.8 trillion.
Yeah, like I said,
context, $2.8 trillion.
I long for those days. Holy moly. All right, we got about a minute left before we have to go to break. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you about Denise's website, and I hope and will encourage you to go visit her website. You can find all of her great work at founderscode.com. The word founder with an S, founderscode.com. That's Denise's own website. That's where she posts all of her work. And if you put your email address in the little box up at the top of the page, you will get sent to your email a notification every time she writes an article. Now, why is this important? Because Denise only posts well-vetted, accurate information. I can count on one finger the last time over the past 6 or 7 years that Denise has had to retract something. So it's well-vetted, accurate information that you can help educate yourself with, you can share it, and you can discuss it. We have to go to break. We're going to be back in 3 minutes. You're listening to the Drive Time SITREP with Denise Simon, and my name is Don Neuen.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Hi, thank you for listening. My name is Ron Phillips, and I'm the owner and operations manager of Talk America Radio. It is with great pride that I offer you this 24/7 stream of some of the finest talk radio programming in the country, but I need your support. We are a listener-supported network. That means we need your help to continue to offer the quality programming you're hearing right now. If you're able, please visit talkamericaradio.us and click the Support Us button. Your donation will go a long way in helping us continue to share the American voice. Thank you.
This is Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience. When I'm not debating with Donna Fiducia about politics, I listen to Cowboy Logic Radio. Why, you ask? Because outside of my blog, founderscode.com, and my own radio show, the Denise Simon Experience, Cowboy Logic is by far the most entertaining and informative radio show on planet Earth. Plus, Don makes me feel guilty if I don't listen to his radio show every week.
Hi, this is Donna Fiducia, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio. For 28 years, I was in the mainstream media, most recently as an anchor at the Fox News Channel. No more. Ladies and gentlemen, the mainstream media has completely failed the American people. Radio networks like Talk America Radio will not fail you. Radio shows like Cowboy Logic Radio will not fail you. Check out the entire roster of over 60 weekly radio shows by visiting talkamericaradio.us. That's talkamericaradio.us.
TalkAmericaRadio.us.
This is Denise Simon. 18 hours a day, I live in a world as an intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence. What I find is reprehensible. What I find is terrifying. What I find is treasonous. 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 The mainstream media has completely failed the American people. 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 Join me for the Denise Simon Experience every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's Drive Time Situation Report with Denise Simon, and my name is Don Neuen. I am cascading down I-20, headed westbound on my way to God's country, leaving the city of Atlanta. Headed home after a long day at work, and I've called into my intelligence guru, Denise Simon, who's given us a SITREP. So we just finished talking about 41. What can we talk about now? Do you want to talk about Mueller? Do you want to talk about
I want to finish one little thing on 41 before we move on, because I guarantee you that when you do a fast review, you tend to forget some things that happened during his 4 years as president. So let me just bring out a few of these. And one of the top ones I'd completely forgotten about, and it was a very big deal, and that was the Exxon Valdez oil spill.
Oh, yeah.
The Tiananmen Square massacre. The Panama invasion in Noriega. The savings and loan crisis. The Iraq invasion of Kuwait, the Disabilities Act, the Gulf War. Clarence Thomas was his nominee for the Supreme Court. The Soviet Union dissolved. But here's a big one, and I think it's a good segue to where we're going to go next. And that is the Immigration Act. And the Immigration Act under 41 only allowed 700,000 aliens into the United States per year.
Like I said, don't you long for those years?
700,000.
Yeah. Pales in comparison, doesn't it?
I mean, just to have some context and perspective is kind of remarkable, because where we are today here, ladies and gentlemen, is that 63% of the non-citizens in the United States, which is 4.6 million households, 4.6 million households, not people, households.
Yeah, households. Yep.
are on some kind of welfare entitlement. Now, what's particularly interesting is these are the most recent numbers that came from the census that we all did and somewhat fought in 2014. So it has taken us 4 years to go through the census data and see how many of these people were non-citizens, or how many households were non-citizens and that are receiving and using the welfare program. And so what's particularly interesting is the Supreme Court, I think, has on their list, I don't know if they've accepted the case or not, of where they will hear the lawsuit where the ACLU and the SPLC and whatever other, radical organizations are suing the Trump administration because we want the question on there on whether these people that participate in the census are U.S. citizens or not. They don't want that question asked on the...
Yeah, it seems kind of rudimentary to me.
It kind of, well, I mean, how else do we know who's here and what the real number is?
Exactly. Exactly.
So when we don't even know what that number really equates to. 63%. But what's the dollar value? We don't have a concept, do we? Of what that dollar is. This $500 million? Is it $2 billion? I mean, we don't know really what that number is. Somebody knows or can get real close to it. So as a consequence, when it comes down to our welfare program, our entitlements program, how do you even budget for it? Because what happened 2 months ago, a collaboration between Yale and MIT, they did a very in-depth study and found that this number that we'd heard so many years of 11 million illegals in the United States is really around 22 million. So if you got 63% of 22 million as opposed to 63% of 11 million, we can't recover, and we'll never get back to the $2.8 trillion in debt that we had during George H.W. Bush's presidency, will we?
No, we'll never get back to it. We'll never, ever be able to fix this problem. I don't see that we can ever do it, which is terrifying.
And yet nobody speaks to it, including this current administration. Nobody. I don't even know what to say. That, for context, I don't even know what to say about it. I mean, where will it be next year? In the year after? We don't know.
Well, what we do know is that it is so terribly bad that it can't get fixed. I mean, I don't see a way. Do you?
Well, here's what I think. There's a lot of really good organizations outside of government that are screaming and yelling about waste, fraud, and abuse. And one of them is somebody that you know and I know, and that is Open the Books. What is his name? Andrzejewski?
Adam Andrzejewski.
And so he's done remarkable work. The Heritage Foundation has done remarkable work. But where is everybody? I mean, what are we doing about it? I remember.
Well, that's the thing. These guys do all this great work, and Andrzejewski you're correct. He's doing stellar work. But nobody cares.
But see, here's the thing.
Spending the money. The people that are spending the money don't care.
But we've got a president that I would say that if you want to drain the swamp, why don't we go line by line and let's, I mean, you can start draining the swamp real fast if you start really addressing waste, fraud, and abuse. And overlap. I mean, you can start getting rid of it. Not only if you get rid of that waste, fraud, and abuse, or at least cut into it by a factor of 25%, 30%, 40%, you start losing some people that don't need to be in government anymore that work in these, NGOs or departments or agencies that have been there forever. There's where I would say, let's start draining something, right?
Well, I agree. You and I and our beloved listeners all agree with this. The problem is we've still got people like Peter Strzok and Bruce Orr and Nellie, whatever her name is, and Lisa Page, and all these folks, many of which are still probably on payroll and probably, if they're not, are receiving their pension. Am I right or wrong?
I don't know. Well, Lisa quit, so I don't think she's getting a pension. And remember, they fired the FBI guy.
Well, and that's listen.
They fired him like the night before he was supposed to receive his pension, and then they went to the GoFundMe thing.
Right. And that's a molecule. It's an atom.
Sure. But
compared to what needs to be done, but that's how broken things are.
And then they want to go cut the Pentagon budget again by 5%. And so now you got Mattis out there that's going, wait, whoa. I mean, that's the first place you start cutting again is that the Pentagon, and nobody talks about the 63% of non-citizens getting welfare.
Oh, exactly.
So
it's because it doesn't affect votes, Denise.
Well, can you imagine how many votes you could actually get from people if you start cutting waste, fraud, and abuse?
Of course. The same number of votes that we could get if we actually started trying to live under conservative values. We've proved that throughout history.
I don't know.
It's sickening. It's sickening.
We're leaving an awful lot here on the table that has just not become part of what I would say it needs to be part of a Trump administration conversation. I'm not even seeing the press attacking the Trump administration on, the spending.
That's because first of all, they can't attack him on it because then it would conflict with what Obama did and what every liberal administration has done. So they can't do that. Plus, they're too damn busy attacking him on nothing burgers. Which, let me ask you this, because I'm not sure. We got about 12, 13 minutes left. Let me ask you this. I'm seeing headlines that this Mueller investigation may be coming to some kind of a close, or at least some kind of an update.
Well, the Mueller team has told the White House lawyers that they are ending cleaning up and wrapping up things. So the lawyers, one team of lawyers has spoken to another team of lawyers, and that is there. Now, the recommendation for the sentencing on Flynn was to be filed by today. We're kind of, Mueller's office has told the judge in his recommendation that Flynn should not get prison time. This is coming out now as we speak, so I'm getting snippets, but The prosecutors, Michael Flynn, provided substantial assistance to the Mueller team. He was very honest. Some pages are redacted here, and they are recommending no prison time.
No, they just destroyed him financially and emotionally.
Well,
where's the restitution for that?
Well, but on the other hand, that he did lie, right?
Yeah, but you know what? There's, when we talk about guys like Dinesh D'Souza, sure, Dinesh, he screwed up, but he also was penalized unlike any time in the history of the judicial system. And to an extent that exceeds anything in the history of the judicial system. The same kind of stuff is going on with this Mueller investigation. This is unprecedented, what is happening. And the thing is, if they can do it to people like this, they can do it to anybody.
I would also say that this will be interesting should the judge, agree with the Mueller recommendations. I haven't seen the document. It has only come out here in the last 3 minutes. So I don't know what the context is of what Flynn did and didn't do with his conversations in the transition, speaking with Ambassador Kislyak or any of the others.
Are you looking at the document right now?
No, I'm trying to get my hands on it.
All right. I'm curious on how much is redacted.
I've seen some pages here that they're holding up, and it looks like 2 or 3 of the pages that I've seen, about half the page is redacted.
Well, we get why, but I'll tell you, I can't stand it when stuff's redacted.
Well,
I just can't stand that.
Okay.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you'll trot over to founderscode.com, as soon as Denise gets this document, I guarantee you she's going to have it on her website for you to be able to preview and probably download if you want to. Right, Denise?
Yeah, I'm trying to look here. Flynn's cooperation was substantial and is recommending no prison time. That's coming from the AP. Right, Scoop is saying it was a Mueller mic drop.
Hey, listen, unrelated. Do me a favor if you can. Can you tell me what happened with regard to the Secretary of State runoff in Georgia? I voted today, so I'm curious on if my vote was victorious. While you're doing that, I want to remind all the valued listeners and beloved listeners that we have here that you can now listen to the Drive Time SITREP along with the Denise Simon Experience and Cowboy Logic Radio, along with great shows like The Conservative Cartel, the Doc Thompson Show. You can listen to all of that on Mojo 50 on iHeartRadio. We are there. We hope you will check us out there. We hope that you'll like shows and that you will share shows and share the fact that we are on iHeartRadio via Mojo 50 to all your friends and family. We sure would appreciate that help.
I don't see a report on your Secretary of State.
Okay. Well, let's keep our fingers crossed, by gosh. All right, you got, let me see how many minutes we got here. We got about 8 minutes. I need something like juicy, Denise. I need, for the past couple of weeks, given the Thanksgiving holiday and, the fact that we haven't known a whole lot about what's going on with real gut-wrenching stuff. You got anything that's going to make me squirm a little bit?
I don't know about squirm, but I will tell you that interesting things are still going on in France. They're still burning the place down. The police and the firefighters and whatnot are on the side of the protesters. Macron's in real trouble. He suspended the tax, 25% tax or whatever that tax was on gasoline. And the Parisians or the French are not buying it. So he's still in some big, big trouble. They're not accepting, because all he did was suspend it. And they said, no, we're not taking crumbs. I would say that France just became, got a little bit of the memo here on how we operate in the United States, that they're not going to put up with this.
Well, is it true that of what I've been seeing with regard to some of these protesters saying, things like "we want Trump" and "make France great again" and things like that?
There is some of that, yes.
Gotta love that, don't you? I don't get the socialist mentality. I don't get it. And how these politicians and political figures that are pushing socialism, both in Europe and in the United States, they have zero credibility. Has it ever worked, Denise? Ever in history?
Well, you and I just spoke about 23 trillion in debt, and I think we haven't even clearly admitted to ourselves how much socialism policy goes on here in the United States.
Well, a ton of it does.
Exactly.
About 23 trillion worth.
That's what I just said. So
I know.
I would say that we need to be really addressing our own house before and using examples like Venezuela or countries in Europe, and some of them are really trying very hard to straighten their act out. Now, the other question on Macron, or the same question that we had on Macron, whether he can survive this or not, could happen to Theresa May. Because her job's in trouble. I mean, it's very much in trouble, because the European Union court, remember, they don't have their own court systems in each of the countries in the European Union. But the European Union court said that they can terminate the Brexit thing anytime they want to. You've got a bunch of Tories over there that are like, we're out of here. Nigel Farage, who was part of the UKIP political party, he left it yesterday, formally left the party. So Theresa May is in big, big trouble herself, because nobody is, just like the French are not trusting the suspension of the gas tax, the Brits are not trusting the Brexit agreement. The Brexit agreement apparently has gone to several of the larger banks in Europe to take a long look at this, and apparently they're not particularly liking it either. So things could be falling apart here very quickly, and I will end this with what Pompeo, interestingly enough, had to say today, because he, as is really Trump's top diplomat, they're talking about a new democratic world order. I really don't like that term, but what it's really saying is, when we have some bad actors that the United States have to deal with, meaning Russia, China, and Iran, interesting that North Korea is not in there, but we are going to relook at our relationships with a lot of our allies and the business that they do with those respective countries. And we may start jettisoning some of our deals and agreements and pacts and, all these other things. And what's particularly interesting is, it got very little press, is that Iran has been doing some missile testing in violation of the UN resolution, and where we stand with the fallout of the Joint Plan of Action, in other words, the nuclear deal. And so now this has embarrassed those European countries, the P5+1s, that decided to stay with the nuclear deal. So what Pompeo is really saying here, in cadence with this White House, it's kind of difficult to peel it back and see what they're really necessarily saying, but it's really quite interesting that they even floated this balloon out there, including the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, to stop funding countries such as China, and let them fail. So I believe this is part and parcel to probably some of the trade deals that the United States is working with, especially when it comes to China. So that could be a little bit of a shaking your
and
boots.
What is that called? What is that called again?
He called it, interestingly enough, he called it the New Democratic World Order.
Boy, couldn't they have come up with something that's a little more palatable than that?
Well, and this is also, remember, this is kind of there's a second track to all of this, and that is Trump's official position to withdraw from the nuclear treaty as well. And he's already done the Paris Climate Accord. So I would say there's some interesting little foreign policy things that are happening here that I think in coming days could be quite notable.
Well, we will sit and we shall wait, Denise Simon. Fabulous SITREP tonight. Thank you so much, sister.
Catafalque.
Yep. And I was glad that my memory served me correctly there about some of the other folks that have lied in state on that. It is remarkable. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got to go. Bye-bye. We sure do appreciate you checking in with us and devoting an hour of your time to the Drive Time SITREP. Join us on iHeartRadio. Join us on Mojo 50. Join us on all of our valued affiliates and networks. Without them, we are absolutely doing nothing but talking in to an empty microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great week. Donna Fiducia, we love you, and happy birthday,
Happy birthday.
Denise, take us home.
Thanks for listening, and God bless America.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.